Maybe it's this thing. What? What? Oh no, the door! Oh no, the irony! Sup? Today's game is Death's, wait for it, Door. This, like its predecessor Titan Souls, is an isometric adventure title developed by Acid Nerve. Thanks, Wikipedia. But what does that mean? Well, here's something a human being might actually say. It's Zelda. For the people that want to know, is that accurate? Well, I'll have to take their word for it. I grew up in an SNES household. I've never actually played a fixed camera Zelda title. Believe it or not, I'm a little bit strange. But then again, we're here, on the internet, talking about video games, so odds are you didn't even notice. To get to the bottom of this, we're gonna have to break this down to the base components, right down to the spoiler level. Alright, let's start it up. Our story concerns a business whose primary operations are the process of facilitating individual transitions from a life to a non-life status. If that sounds really boring, it's because I made it sound really boring. And I made it sound boring even though this is a job where a glowing sword comes standard issue. Because I can read the room, bro. Look around. Our boss remarks that our first assignment for the day, surprisingly, exists. And this guy is just asleep. This coworker, who must have the power to kill people given where we are, would rather play with a typewriter. Imagine going to work and wanting to type up papers when violence is an option. I don't go into all this detail because this intro in particular is a highlight, by the way. I mean, an infinite featureless void where nobody's doing anything is nothing new to you if you've spent a couple of years in the workforce. I just wanted to point it out because, on top of being foreshadowing, it also shows something this game is really good at. Characterization. Everything I interacted with was really full of life, which is sort of ironic. It had its own voice, even if this one is just a little bit depressing. Anyway, things start out in a business as normal situation. We're commissioned to collect a soul, we help it compassionately into the afterlife, but as we're about to collect, somebody thumps us on the head and takes it. The magic bird law that runs the universe says that if you don't bring your soul back, the door you went through to collect it stays open, and while that's the case, you age. This is super bad. Okay, well hang on, I know you already know that it's bad to age, because my stats say that most of you have already done it a lot. But the reaping birds are immortal most of the time, so for them it's like 50% worse or something. Anyway, after you track down your DoorDash thief, it turns out he took your order because he needed to smear it on a door and try to get it open. A door with a name that really suggests you shouldn't do that. Turns out he did this because a long time ago he lost his order through the door in the first place. The solution he suggests for this is to get more spirit bombs off the bosses in yonder adjacent areas. He then has the audacity to say something like, "Choose your path now. You can either help me get this done, or I guess the other one is just die." Now I won't blame anybody for seeing this and going, "But that's so transparently a video game, hey?" Excuse me, that hurt my voice. Because, I mean, it pretty much is. I mean, if you're gonna give me a list, you might as well just give me a statue with all their heads on it. Like I said, this game is full of character and consistently avoids taking itself too seriously. This extends to the bosses, who repeatedly show up throughout their stages to remind you that they are exceptionally still alive and vigorous. Even a mysterious and elusive monster, which does not show up before its boss fight, is characterized beforehand as a derelict man's one Tinder hookup that got away. These enemies are never allowed to be inscrutable gray boxes floating near the horizon like a spaceship in Independence Day. Or I guess what you have to say now is Independence Day 1. Thanks, Hollywood. Our actions here are fully justified by the internal clockwork of this universe. Death is currently broken, which is why grandmas and forest animals are so huge. Souls outside of their time grow giant. Despite this, our job as executioner is made to feel personal through these interactions, and this is given a moment to land with each fight. There's a little rumination, just a hint of recognition for the moment. It harmonizes well with the final motif of the game, which is ultimately that old classic milk bone, memento mori. Speaking of, the combat system is quite decent. We have here what could reasonably be called a fundamental staple food sort of combat system. You know, toast and eggs, rice and beans. Actually, on second thought, no one would know what the hell you mean. Don't do that, stop calling it that. I'm gonna keep going though. So like staple food, it's fine, it works. It just doesn't go far enough. On the one hand, it's got all the nutritious things that I think of as healthy, like accurate hitboxes, which only exist on attacks and not on an enemy's body, which makes positioning for melee a lot less punishing and unfun. It's got a fun mix of melee and ranged weaponry with self-directed aim, so you can feel the exact feeling of knowing that you have no one to blame but you. It's got hits which I believe create extra time for your own reactions by adding delay to enemy actions. and it includes a lot of really satisfying feedback, like thick sounds and big hefty screen shake, and a little hit stop on some heavy hits. Nice. Since we're at feedback, I don't see how I can avoid mentioning the moms at this point. That's because I don't see it all anymore. My retinas are gone. You should use eclipse glasses for safety during this section, by the way. I can't emphasize this enough. This is not edited. I'm not even sure if I could edit this to make it more extreme. This is the visual effects equivalent of that bass boost they do in anime to make you... Actually, hang on. I just had a really good idea. Okay, weapons hot. You might want to turn down your volume for this. What were we supposed to have been doing? Alright, the combat. It's even got some nice touches, like bullet redirection, which I always love, enemies which can damage each other with their own attacks, and ways to damage enemies with the environment. Whenever I see any of these things, I feel the same way I would feel if somebody unexpectedly paid for my drink. Like, you didn't gotta, but you did anyway. Godspeed, you magnificent son of a bitch. But unfortunately for me, and you because you're here listening to this, my preference, my craving, the gold standard that I'm always looking for in combat like this, it's a little bit unreasonable or maybe even impossible. I'm always looking for either a tool set that I can grow into as a player or an enemy difficulty that I can grow into as a player. It's like I'm looking for this impossible tightrope balance between, whew, that was pretty hard, and why did you think it was okay to sledgehammer my tender Johnson? Now, it's not going to be tool sets for this type of game. These weapon movesets are not unique enough to engender a differentiated playstyle, and the tools at your disposal are all fairly straightforward. But I think you could expect this simplicity to be made up with more active or reactive enemies. However, on the other side, with attack patterns and aggression, the action is satisfying, but I think the difficulty could increase the status of the vibe check here. The vibe could more significantly be checked. In my opinion, enemy aggression is probably on the low side because of the health system, which is at a bare minimum 20 to 30% whack. Healing is accomplished by spending seeds which you pick up to plant flowers in pots throughout the maps. Once the seed is spent, it's gone, and the plant blooms, producing one full heal. One full health, fully stationary heal. Firstly, this means that there is no emergency healing, so every encounter is balanced around being clearable without ever needing to heal for all players. Otherwise, it would be an unreasonable barrier. Ergo, ipso facto, every enemy plays explicitly by the rules, and they're very careful to color only in the lines. I think I would prefer it if somebody broke the rules and I had to figure out how to solve it. You know, people are problem solvers by nature. I think that makes sense. This also proves annoying because if you take a few cheap shots from the gobs of enemies, you will walk into a big, fresh, spicy situation, and you'll know that the only sensible thing to do is backtrack to that one plant that you left uneaten a few screens back. This is an experience that I expect most people to have playing this game, and I have a hard time believing someone would playtest this and say, there's no opportunity at all for improvement here. If they did, there's no nice way to say it. They're a banana. I think the core of what I'm saying comes down to engagement. User engagement, player engagement, whatever you want to call it. I want more interplay between me and the enemies. Or even me and the puzzles. I would rate the puzzles in this game as like, sorta. I mean, before rating puzzles, we should agree on a puzzle lexicon first. Is this a puzzle? I think on the subject of complexity, the closest comparison I can think of is a set of maracas. Basically, if you ever come up to a glowing door that has a bunch of switches near it, and you don't get the door to open, just try like hitting everything faster and more carelessly. And oh wait, they're for me. These puzzles are for me. I'm the demographic. Okay, a 10 out of 10, flawless. These small complaints aside, I did find Death's Door delightful. Compared to Titan Souls, this is a massive leap forward. It even has a lot of post-game, which includes satisfying closure for most of its characters. More than anything, I'd say my complaints maybe make this game a victim of the march of time, right? In the past, man was content to simply hold sticks and walk forward. I mean, in 2012, if they came face to face with this polished modern game, they would consider it a harsh banger fit to melt faces. I think most people seeing this kind of thing are going to ask, should I play Death's Door or Tunic? And back to what I'm saying, I'm going to guess, based on the accolades and press I've seen for Tunic, it probably acquits itself as a more memorable title because of tighter tuning and more demanding gameplay. But I don't know for sure yet. I'll give it a go. I'll let you know. Thanks for watching. I would love any feedback. Take it easy.